Stop listening to anybody who's talking about real estate unless they're talking about these three things. Unless they're talking about these three things, then you cannot trust them to be giving you knowledgeable information because the reality is they're just spewing exactly what it is that they've always said and what they've always been taught. Now, the very first thing that we always hear is that real estate always goes up. And I'm going to agree with that. That's true. But we have to ask them the question, over what span of time? Okay. Yes. If you bought land for a nickel back in the 1800s, it'll be worth $1 million today. It's gone up. That's the nature of the beast. However, we need to understand that there are going to be times and moments where things do not increase in value. And I believe that anybody who doesn't take these three things into consideration when considering whether or not real estate is a good investment right now, if they don't address these three things, then they're not being genuine. Because these three things, honestly, these are things that have never, ever, ever happened in the history of the United States, and they've never happened in the history of the world. We're talking about something that is totally different. And if we don't address these three things when talking about investing in real estate, then we're not really thinking about it and we're not really being genuine. Number one, super obvious, it's going to be AI. AI is changing everything. It's changing, it is eliminating so many jobs. It is going to eliminate such a huge portion of the population's income. And so the question is going to end up being, how are people going to pay for their homes if all the jobs are being replaced by AI? Now, do I personally believe that every single change, such as having to do with AI, has eventually worked itself out? The Industrial Revolution totally changed. All kinds of people lost their jobs in farming and things like that, but eventually things worked out. Yes. And will that probably be the case with AI? Probably yes. However, there is going to be an adjustment period where society and capitalism adjust to the AI world. That's number one. If they're not addressing that, they're not being genuine and actually thinking about it. Number two is going to be population decrease. For the first time ever, we have a birth rate in the United States below 2. 2 is basically the number that is going to keep population increasing. All right, you have to have at least an average of 2 in order for there to be an increase. Right now it's at 1.6. So we are seeing a population decrease. So what does this mean for things like housing inventory or demand? We hear things about supply and demand, and that is what drives prices of homes. If there isn't as great a demand because there are fewer people, but we have the same supply, what does that do to the housing market, to the investment market, investing in apartments and things like that? The third thing that if a person does not address it, then they are not being genuine in talking about the real estate world and the world that we live in and investing and things like that. The third thing is the silver wave. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this term, this is the idea of we have this baby boomer generation that is about 22% of the population or so. It's 70 plus million people in the United States. Now, these people own a huge portion of the wealth in the United States. But in the next 10 years, a huge portion of them, almost all of them, are going to be passing away. Or they're going to continue to have longer lives due to advances in health and stuff like this, which means that they're going to be a greater draw on Social Security and things like that. So this silver wave is going to have a huge impact on, number one, the economy. Number two, they're going to have a huge impact in terms of the housing market. If they do pass away, then what's going to happen? We're going to have a huge increase in inventory. So now we have a population decrease with less people, and we have an increase in the homes that are available. 25% of all the homes. Now that, but they're high-end homes. Now that, but they're going to be passing wealth on to the lower generations. So what is this all going to look like? If somebody is not addressing these things that are totally unique, when we look at people saying, hey, real estate's always gone up, they've been looking at the last 80 years. Yes, absolutely has. But we're dealing with AI. We're dealing with a population decrease. We're dealing with a silver wave. And if we don't address these three things when talking about real estate, then the fact is we're just puppets. We're just we're just mimics. We're just parrots, and we're parroting the information that somebody has sold to us. You want to make sure that whoever's giving you the information takes these things into account. Last but not least, if you get a chance, you're going to want to read a book called The Fourth Turning Is Now. And it's by Neil Howe. And it talks about how about every 80 to 100 years, we go through these cycles. Well, again, we're right there right now in terms of the cycle that we would see where kind of everything resets. And so just make sure that when you're talking to somebody, a realtor such as myself, or a real estate expert of some kind, or a wealth expert, you need to ask them about these three, and I'll add in the fourth, these three things, because if they're not addressing it, you're probably not getting 100% all of the information that you need to make a smart decision. So, listen, here's the crazy part. I don't even know what the answer is. I am still working through this stuff, right? For my clients, I am working through this stuff big time. Ironically enough, I'm working with AI. I'm working with models. I'm looking back at history back through the 1920s when we saw some turnings happening, when we saw the last fourth turning. I'm going back and I'm looking at all this stuff, trying to figure out. I don't have the answers. I don't know what the answers are, but I'm at least trying to take them into account with the advice that I give to people. So, AI, population decrease, silver wave, fourth turning. Make sure that these things are addressed when you talk to anybody about investing, and especially about investing in real estate. I'm Matthew Parsons, Knoxville Real Estate Expert. Thank you, and God bless.